Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 37. First day of training. The terrain was rough and red. There were dried blood stains everywhere in this stone-like environment. Telesa stands in front of me smiling with only a black tank top and white shorts on. She was stretching as I stood there in my black trench coat and red shirt and white pants. I was burning up in the heat while wielding Fiacla. Are you getting fired up? Telesa asks with excitement in her tone. Why are we training? I'm pretty sure I'm more than powerful enough to enter the culinary coliseum. I state as I raise my blade and tilt it towards her. Okay, what do you know about the world and chefs? Telesa asks. I know that because of powers, crime rates have dropped and those who are chefs could be labeled heroes that go around serving up justice. And there are crooks that use their powers for evil like me. I state bluntly without emotion. I was tired and it was early in the morning. The sun was barely peeking itself over the mountains in the distance. You got the rough idea. But the world isn't so black and white. She straightens herself out and looks at me with a serious expression. Chefs and crooks are not so different. Both use their powers to destroy and build the desires. The God that gave you your food and powers wants something from us and wants to see what we do with them. And you, Toby, ate the table. You should have died. But because the God helped you eat it, you survived and was able to become as strong as you are now. Too bad you're an emotionally unstable kid. Otherwise you could be one of the top chefs in the world. And the worst part is kids like you forget that you need a power card to be able to use your powers freely in the world. And you and that Roxy chick should have been arrested for that alone. But the law is lenient on this because you just received your power and who could blame you for using it? So you only permitted to use it in cases of self-defense and school if told to. She turns around and forms a sword of golden ice in her right hand. But for adults we get our powers taken if we don't follow this law to the letter. So Toby, you're lucky for your age. And with that said, you're going to a place where they break you and try to make your power a weapon for show. And with you knowing only how to punch and dodge on instinct, you're going to be devoured if you go in there. I doubt that. I'm powerful and have experience in fighting multiple enemies with strong powers at the same time. Plus I heard if you participate in the culinary coliseum then you get a shot at the top chef. Only reason for me going there, I state. You're not listening, Toby. I just stated that you are going there to show off your power. So that means that if you don't do something eye-catching then you're just a waste of talent. Gladiators back then were more of entertainers than they were fighters. Today that image has changed and now is what we call a blood sport. But now because of powers being introduced and nearly everyone nowadays having unique and powerful abilities, people die. People get hurt in the Colosseum. And many of those other kids that joined that Colosseum have your unique background. And powers that could topple cities. And they go there under recommendations or try out for them. And those who try out for them enter with more knowledge than those who just get in by recommendation. And since you're entering by my recommendation, what you do reflects back at my decision-making skills. So you need to perform better than the rest, Telesa states before turning around and running straight towards me. My body jumps into action as I tightly grip my sword and wait for Telesa to come in closer. Her words now coming into mine. I know that the world ain't no black and white. There is no perfect citizen or chef. And there is no such thing as pure evil. Just people with different or twisted motives. And mine is to become powerful. Someone that everyone looks at and says that they respect me. I swing my blade at her as she comes within range. She ducks under my blade and lunges forwards with her sword. I jump back and swing Fiacla down at Telesa. She rolls to the right and this gives me the moment to swing my sword again. She rolls to the left before striking straight out with her sword. Her movements are quick and precise. I trip on my own 2 feet as I try to sidestep the attack. I fall on my butt as her blade scrapes my cheek. I dodge it just by an inch. As a tiny droplet of blood runs down my cheek, I jump up onto my feet only to jump back as Telesa's blade blurs past my chest. My muscles grow and squeeze as I swing my blade back, getting ready to swing it all the way around. Telesa swings her sword downwards. I sidestep her attack, but she with her unrelenting attack swings her sword, making me duck so that she could knee my face. My nose squished against her knee as blood erupts out of my now broken nose. I stumble back and raise my sword in defense to another swing of her sword. Clink. The sword sparkles as they grind against one another. Golden ice chunks fly off of her blade as my sword passes by Telis's face. Without another second to move, I swing my sword left to right at her. She raises her blade, and with a clean slice I hack into her blade. Telisa smiles at such a result before launching a row of golden ice spikes out of the ground directly at me. I jump back and nearly evade the attack. I then look for a water source. Fiacla's abilities must be a use for this. All I can do with it is accelerate my blood flow. But I need agility more than I need the bulk of strength. Golden ice shoots out over the wall of golden spikes as Telisa runs up the ramp she made. From on top of it she formed a golden bow from ice and cocks back the string. An arrow forms perfectly aligned. She was ready to continuously fire at me. I only have a few things for defense from range attacks. I have to get in close. I sprint towards her as she fires off an arrow. Flunk. The arrow strikes into the ground just behind me. I swing my sword down into the golden ice and use it to heaven myself over to the wall of golden ice spikes. Another whistle of an arrow goes by my head as my feet land on the ground. She's aiming but purposefully missing. I could use that against her. I look at the ramp and immediately begin to run up it. The ice ramp begins to morph as I run along it. It shot Telisa back as falls form in front of me to stop me in my tracks. I use my sword to heave myself over the walls and continue my momentum. I was making great pace as arrows flew past my head, never hitting me. She had a perfect aim, and if she was really going to kill me, she had done it over and over again. This is what she gets for treating me like a worthless kid. A smile and an arrow to the shoulder is all it took to take me off of the ramp and land on the ground with a loud thud. The air in my lungs runs out of my body, leaving me gasping for air. I claw at the air as if it was going to just jump back in on command. Telisa bridges herself down with golden ice and walks right beside me. Fool, she states as she covers my chest with a few drops of golden ice. The cold and smooth ice felt good, and already I was beginning to get my air back. It was some sort of miracle. Now on to more hell. Telisa smiles and my bones rattle in fear. The Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 38. My body. I thought my body was solid before. But now I'm more muscular than ever. My body looks as if I just injected it with a whole bunch of steroids. Just 6 days of training with Telisa causes this kind of body. My abs were more like steel ingots, while my shoulders and arms looked as if I worked out for most of my life being as big as they are. And my power feels strained. I'm trying to focus on boosting Fiacla's powers to a 3rd level, but the harder I try, the recoil of boosting that power has a really hard effect on my body. And causes the power to attack me. Telisa says that it's because I don't have the true body to wield such great power. She really made me think about how I've been acting. Get up off of your butt, Telisa demands as she picks up Fiacla from the ground. I stand up, my body sore and barely able to stand straight. Telisa, do the other students go into the Colosseum under this harsh of training? Like I haven't even grown my power at all. I've just learned that if I boost it past the 2nd level, then my body gets injured. I state with my body wanting to collapse. My words felt as if they were falling on the ground without reaching Telisa. You're an ex-criminal's aiming for my spot. And you know more than most about how powers work. Which is good, don't get me wrong. But you're weak when compared to others who happen to eat something rare and become impossibly strong. And students go to the Culinary Colosseum because they want a shot at me. So they train probably twice as hard as you are right now. And I'm trying to put in 10 years of training in 7 days. So you're going to improve your power, or I'm going to just send you to jail. She states coldly as she throws Fiacla at me. My body reacts and catches Fiacla by the handle. I'm doing this to make sure that the world becomes a more accepting place. For Roxy's dream, I'll become the top chef and help people, I state with confidence. Fiacla's powers run through me like a train as I twist his body behind mine. I'm going to boost his water powers to the 2nd level, pushing both my blood through my body faster and increasing my healing factor. Then as the power passes that stage, I'll focus it to increase oxygen going through it, puffing up my muscles, making me stronger. This will backlash and break a couple bones with a few swings. But if I can hit Telisa with my sword, then I can say that I surpass her teachings. I charge at her, stone flinging behind me as my body destroys itself as it heals. I'm hurting like hell, but as anger blinds the pain, I let out a roar. Telisa sends a row of golden ice at me. But I just swung Fiacla as hard as I could, smashing the ice to rubble as I continued towards Telisa. My right forearm snaps like a twig and I toss Fiacla in the last second to my left hand. Not as strong as my right, but it will have to do. I'll become more agile and dodge her next attack. Telisa sends another wave of golden ice at me. I jump over it and my femur shatters. Or, I shout out as I land on my left non-broken leg. My healing factor is doing its best to numb the pain, but it will still take some time to fully heal from this. You'll never beat me with your limbs broken, Telisa states with a frown on her face. She's disappointed in me. In these past 6 days she's made 2 faces. A face of anger and another face of disappointment. Both told me that I was failing. But she'll regret making that face. I then spring off of my left leg, shattering the bones to dust as I lunge into the air with Fiacla in my left hand. I then boost the super strength to the 3rd level. My muscles grow even more intensely. I was going to win. As I get close to Telisa, her eyes grow wide and my smile grows along with it. In an instant, Telisa throws up her hand, pulling up a wall of golden ice. But that doesn't matter. I'll break through it. I swing my blade downwards with maximum force. Boom. The wall of golden ice, the ground, and even the sky split in 2 as shards of stone and golden ice fly around my body. The sun reflecting off of the gold, nearly blinding me. But I'm sure that I knocked her back. Telisa had to be knocked back with that attack. I land on the floor with a thud. The skin around my left arm was gone. I look at it and my heart begins to twist. My muscles were torn and purple as my bones splintered out of my meaty muscles. I wretched at the sight. My gut is barely able to adjust for the new pain developing in my throat and chest. I try to not focus on it and see Telisa standing a few yards away from me. My vision blurs, but I swear she was just standing there, doing nothing but watching me. You idiot, I knew who said those words to me. Telisa was in my ear. I knew that I screwed up by damaging myself this bad. And because of me I'll have to rest instead of train tomorrow. A smirk grows over my face before a heel slams into it. You're not escaping training tomorrow. I'll go grab a healer, Telisa says with anger in her words. My eyes dart towards her. Her body is bleeding with tiny little cuts all over her. And the best part was the feeling in my heart that I caused that. I hurt the top chef. The Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 39, the last day of training results. Ah. God damn it. I shout out as Telisa snaps my bones into place as a man besides her begins to wave his gloved hand over my broken body. Did he actually manage to cause you damage? The man asks. He was a close friend of hers before she became the top chef. His name is Terry. He is one of the chefs that patrol the city to aid out. I ran into him once. Must have forgotten it. But to describe him is somewhat lame. He's just another guy in lime green tights and a weird bulb-shaped helmet. I think people nicknamed him Healing Slime for whatever reason. Don't mind my injuries. It was caused by the debris that he flung around aimlessly. Besides, he broke nearly every bone in his body to cause these scratches. Not impressive at all, Telisa states coldly as she grips her arms tighter. I think it's a little impressive, Terry whispers under his breath. He was scared of her even though he knew full well that she wouldn't hurt him. Now that's respect. I heard you, you know. She turns her face away from him as she puckers her lips and says shyly. I thought it was funny to see. Terry turns to her and accelerates my healing. I'm sorry, he states nervously. His guard hasn't gone down a single second that he walked in here. That just tells me that he knows how powerful she is. And how much pain she goes through daily to overcome her own power. I'm surprised that no one has done any research on this kind of drawback on having powers. Is it because some train their power to this kind of limit and don't notice the drawbacks like Randall? Randall. He's dead. Snap. Oh God. I sit up straight at the feeling of my arm snapping back into place. Terry places a hand on my chest and pushes me down on my back. You're in a very weakened state. You're lucky that you're alive. Being a power enhancer yourself, you should be lucky that you haven't seen these kind of drawback before and nearly kill yourself. Terry's voice with me was more assertive. Can't blame him. He doesn't know who I am. To him, I'm just another power-hungry kid that Telesa is saving out of mercy. Boosting a power to a second level is not hard. Just a few months of training and you're there. But boosting it to a third level is the hard part, I say through my teeth painfully. My body healing at this rapid pace was too much. I was at the point of nearly passing out. Most people don't ever reach the third level. I haven't even reached that far, and I had my power for nearly 10 years. And Toby here, when we first met, showed me what the third level for my power looked like. And now I know where to go to reach that state, Telesa states with the corner of her lips slightly raising to form a half-assed smile. Randall, after seeing me use his power in the second level, then soonly approached me with that kind of power. He learned how to better wield it after seeing me use it in that gear. And my power, how can I use it at a higher level? What level was it at? Telesa, what level am I using my own power at? I asked. Telesa looks at me and tilts her head to the left. She leans in closer in her train of thought. She puts a finger onto her cheeks as she stares up into the sky. I think you are using it on the second level. You can absorb as many powers as you can and boost them to their third tier. Even though that damages your body, I think that there is something more for your powers. She says, finally returning her gaze back at my body. If she was right and I've been using my power at second level, then I need to think of ways to use it better or in a different way. Then it hit me like a bolt of lightning. I shot my right arm up and grabbed Terry's wrist. Absorbing his power. What are you doing, kid? Terry asks as he pulls his wrist away from me. I boost his power to the second level and begin to accelerate my own body. I sit up and reach over towards Telesa. I place my hand on her shoulder as she looks at me curiously. I focus Terry's power and feel it moving through my body, extending to my fingertips. Ah, I shout out through clenched teeth. The pain of his power exiting my fingertips and trailing into Telesa's body was excruciating. Telesa jumps up and places her hand on her shoulder, wincing at the pain that I just placed on her. What did you do? She asks as her body glows with a green aura as her cuts heal. Oh, you gave me the second level of Terry's power. You've grown just now, she says angrily. But there was something that I didn't like about that whole transfer. Something that then made Telesa's and my eyes widen. My arm turned to a hardened white. I couldn't move it at all. She reaches over and touches my plastic hand. My heart pounding as Terry's power shoots from her shoulder into my hands like lightning. I fling back across the ground as my arm turns back to normal. This is interesting, I state as I stand up, my body damaged but not like before. This was just getting interesting. You're going to the Colosseum tomorrow, Telesa says with a wide smile and a thumbs up. Tears form in my eyes as my sense of pride floods my nerves. I'm going to like this, I say to myself. But without realizing it at this moment, I grew 10 times stronger in the 7 weeks than I ever did the entire year working with the icebreakers. Up. The Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 40, The True Beginning. Telesa throws a big black suitcase into my chest. Thankfully I caught it and fumbled with it. She smiles at me as she walks towards me. I'm proud that I got to train under her. She reminds me a lot of Roxy. That's probably why I didn't quit the first day of training. Kid, you made it. And your power is really enhanced. I didn't think you would improve so much since then. Your body is molded just right, and now since you know that your power can be used at a third level, you can probably handle the lashback better to enhance third level powers now. You're going to make a perfect Gourmet Gladiator, Telesa says with confidence. And if I didn't want a hole in my chest, I would mention to her face that I saw the beginning of a tear forming in her eyes. She was happy and sad to see me off. Imagine what a whole year of training would be like under her. I imagined that I would hit a limit somewhere in there. But if I can harm her in just 1 week, just think of the possibilities of winning in a year. Thank you, ma'am. I think I stand a chance now that I've trained under you, I state with a smile on my face. My clothes that she bought for me are a little flashy, but that's fine. I'll change into them before I leave. You might have had a rough beginning and it's only going to get rougher. But you are adaptable. And even more impressive is that you're smart. You'll think of how to win. I'll see you in a year, Telisa states as she walks away from the bus stop that I stand by. She was sad and proud. You could tell in her tone. I'm glad that I made an impression on her. I turn around and look down at the suitcase. There's a couple months of clothes in here. Plus some useful hygiene utensils. I've been missing out on that a bit. This reminds me of my parents a little bit. My mom would, despite what was always going on, remind me to brush my teeth. I've been missing her the most. And when I think of her, I can't help but think about my father. Looking back at it, he wasn't the worst. He was just stern. Sure, his eyes told a different story. But again, I think that was just how he looked. I love you, son, the echo from a past of my father once shouted at me. I miss him just as much now that I see what kind of person he was. Sure, my father and mother had the same job and the media only covered him and not so much me, but he was the one that was in the spotlight. I remember every time that we would go out in public, he was the main one getting harassed. Bullying. Harassment. I couldn't help but think about George and Bob. Last time I heard from either of them was a couple months ago. Still in the gangs. George went on a training visit somewhere as Bob ran his side of things. Don't know where either one of them are. But I hope that they're going through hell. Helios. He's a liar. He's probably with Bob right now begging for shelter. Or he's fighting for it. Either way, he's scared. I'm glad I don't have to deal with that anymore. He took the most from me. He stole my parents, my girlfriend, a fellow rival, and a whole year of my life. My fists glow white with rage as I clench them. I shake as the sound of gunshots and blood dropping on the floor rings in my ears. Sir, are you okay? An older gentleman's voice snaps my attention out of my thoughts. I'm glad that he did. I noticed that I was growling in anger the whole time. Sorry, sir, I state embarrassingly. I put my hand behind my neck and began to rub it. It's fine, young man, the older gentleman states as he sits down on the bench and looks ahead, seemingly at nothing new to him. I do the same and sit next to him. Waiting for a bus is long. I wish Telisa was here for just a little bit longer. At least I wouldn't be starting up small talk with a complete stranger. So why are you heading on this next bus? I ask out of boredom. Because the Culinary Coliseum. Something that you wouldn't understand. Toby, the old man says with a snarky tone. I look at him as his body begins to morph into a red paste before taking a more curvy shape of Rebecca. She was taller now. Her breasts were huge, don't know if that is because of her power or just growth. But either way, her hair is much longer and blonde now. So much change, and yet her face is still the same as I last saw it. So you're here. What's been going on? I ask, trying not to get my emotions involved. Did you say that you were going to the Culinary Coliseum? You're ignorant. Because of you, George couldn't join me on this bus ride. And yes, I'm joining because I've passed the exam. I didn't see you there though. So what are you doing here? She states with anger slowly rising in her tone. So you and him are still a thing? I ask with an interested tone. You didn't answer my question, she says as she folds her arms and crosses her legs. Sorry. I guess I have to tell you. I think I'm going to skip that question. You don't have to answer mine, I state. I don't think I will, she coldly says as she turns her gaze away from me. And you know when someone says something along the lines of snootingly agreeing with you that you just want to pummel them. Well, I was trying with all my strength not to fight her. Hopefully she doesn't notice my hands shaking. The bus pulls up and we get on it. The next stop will be our last for a while. Other collection.
That was chapters 37 through 40, the Gourmet Gladiator. You can check this out on Inkit. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.